I always tell people the most valuable lesson I got from my mentor, Jim Rohn, was I asked, my father worked 2 jobs. We were always broke. We had no money for food. And we lived in a community we moved to, which was, I thought they were all rich and we were on the other side of the tracks. It was a lower middle class, but compared to where we lived before, these people seem rich compared to us. And I just didn't understand it. And Jim said to me, Tony, it's not about the value of your soul, it's about the value of you in the marketplace. And your father's skills are not that valuable. He was an underground parking attendant, and he would take people's ticket and make change. Well, the research now shows, it's being done at Yale, it's being done overseas in England as well, and they found that 40% of all jobs they project in the next 10 years are going to disappear because of technology. It's going to be replaced by an algorithm, it's going to be changed. All these guys on Wall Street, you're seeing all these algorithms take over and they're getting rid of all these traders, right? It's changing radically in these hedge funds. There's 3 million truck drivers. Self-driving cars are here. In the next 5 years, they will be the standard, certainly within 7 or 8 years. Are you going to hire someone who can only work 8 hours a day and sometimes gets drunk or can make a mistake when you can buy a machine, write down the machine, and be in a position where it works 24 hours a day driving? But no one is telling these drivers this, and they have to retool now. So technology is the biggest challenge. Labor is less valuable because of efficiencies with technology, and it's going to get better and better for technology, which is scary when you think about what's going to happen for jobs. So I say to people, you've got to participate in your own rescue. You've got to retool yourself. The idea that Bernie Sanders has of providing free education sounds wonderful, but the education he wants to do is community college. There are no skill sets in community colleges today, for the most part, that are going to prepare you for the economy or a job that's there. So what is that going to do? You're just going to waste more money, more time. We need to retool ourselves. The government's not going to do it for you.
From the 1750s to 1950s, we enter the industrial age, industrial revolution. Something happens. Something happened. This is the first time in history that people who were born poor could be rich. First time in history. People who were born poor with no land, but they created something that made them rich. In the industrial age, machines equals wealth.
Machines do more and more of the hard work these days.
Thousands of years in the industrial age, and now we're transitioning to industrial age. All the farmers who were peasants, farmers, they have a little shack to live in, right? That's how it works. The industry, the industrial tycoons, and they say to the farmers, hey, instead of working every day, 7 days a week, 14, 15, 16 hours every day, come work in my factory. You only work 5 days a week, only 9 to 5. You can take the weekends off.
You and Ethel go to Palm Springs. Have a good time.
You mean it?
More than that, if you do that, you don't work in the farms, come work in my factory. By the time you get to 65, I will take care of you. Now, think about it. If you were a farmer, working all your life under the sun, 7 days a week, someone comes along and make you this offer, what would you say? You say, sign me up. Let's do it. Sign me up. And then your life is about to change forever. And back then, Rockefeller, Carnegie, Henry Ford, J.P. Morgan, they became the richest people in the world because they created machines to make mass production possible. And what happens is this. In the first time in history, a new class of people was born. That's the middle class. For the first time in history, now people have extra time. They have extra income. Because before, working every day, nothing to do. Now they've got weekends. And they've got to do something with that extra time or extra income. So maybe they'll go away a little bit, take a little vacation. So now, not 2 classes. You have what? The poor, you have the middle class, and then you have the rich. Another thing that was born, a new revolutionary concept was born, and that is called retirement. Retirement was born out of the industrial age. I'm going to work at this job, 9 to 5, for 40 years. If it's good, then I'm going to retire. That's the concept from the industrial age. And what happens is this. You go home and you talk to your family. So imagine Joe working in the factory, right? One day the manager comes to Joe and says, hey, Joe, you are doing a very good job in the factory. You're doing things, you're productive. Here's what we're going to do. The manager tells Joe, why don't I send you back to school, get some education. If you do that, you come back, I'm going to give you a raise. Joe's like, yeah, of course. If you were Joe, working in a factory, manager comes and say, get some couple years education. I'm going to give you a pay raise. So you don't need to work in a factory anymore. You're going to, instead of work in a factory, you're going to manage the people who work in the factory. So Joe comes home, sitting down with the kids. Hey kids, you know the boss comes to me today, and he said if I go to school for a couple years, and then I go back there, I don't need to work in the dirty factory anymore. I'm going to get a raise. We're going to make more money. And Joe tells all the kids, if you don't want to work in a factory like I did, what do you need to do? You got to go to school.
All the children are quiet while they
You
read.
got to get good grades. So you don't need to work in a factory like your dad did.
These boys are slagging.
And the kid's like, okay, Dad, I get it. I'll make sure I go to school. I'll get good grades. It's working. He's now managing the people who works the machines. A couple years later, the manager goes to Joe, hey, Joe, you're doing such a phenomenal job. Tell you what, why don't you go back to school for 2 more years? Get an MBA. Then you don't even need to manage the people who manage the machine. You'll manage the people who manage the people who manage the machine. And I'm going to pay you double what you're making right now. Joe is like, what is he going to say? Sign me up. Went back to school for 2 more years. Graduate. Now have that piece of paper. Now, Joe's making twice as much. Managing the people who manage the people who manage his machine. And Joe goes back and sits down with the kids at dinner table again. Kids, holy shit. You know what? Don't just go to school for 4 years. Go to school for 6 years. You don't even need to manage the people who manage the machine. You can skip that shit. Just go right up to middle management. You can skip all of that. Does that sound familiar? That's where the concept was born, from the industrial age. At the time, the key to success in the industrial age was traditional education. If you don't have a good job, you won't succeed. And a really good job is you're running the people who are running the people who are running machines. That's a very good job. You work 40 years, 5 days a week, retire, they take care of you. Does that work for most people anymore? Most people struggle financially. Write it down. Because they're trying to create wealth with an idea that was created from the industrial age, from the 1950s. We're in the 21st century. Your family is feeding you idea. They're giving you the formula for success from 1950s. And you wonder why they struggle. And they think, if one job is not enough, if the formula doesn't work, what do? I get if that is not enough, I get a third job. Not only they don't get ahead, they get behind.